We're doing a midweek garden tour. Today is Tuesday, June the 28th. On par, it is the last week of the month, so it's time for a monthly garden tour, which I usually try to get these filmed on a Sunday because I'm actually put together on those days. But I am getting over some illness, so I did not have it in me to record this past Sunday. So here we are on a Tuesday, and it happens to be raining today, so we're here with an umbrella over the phone. The phone is on a tripod with an umbrella to protect it from the rain. If you didn't know, New Mexico has a monsoon season, which usually, since I've been here for almost 4 years, I think, or right at 4 years, the monsoon season usually starts at the beginning of July, but it got here about a week and a half to 2 weeks early, because it's been raining on and off. It was raining on and off last week as well. So, but July is right around the corner. So I'm so glad, because last year monsoon season left so much to be desired. It's when we get a majority of our rain here in New Mexico, and my goal is that this time next year we will have a water catchment system, but we'll talk about that down the road. But for now, I'm thankful for the rain today, and we are going to take a tour. So stay tuned. Here is our full garden overview. I am actually probably more excited than I should be to go and look back at the May garden tour to see the difference, because I know the grass is greener, and I know the tomatoes have grown so much, and then the sunflowers, like the ones towards the back there and the ones on the path here, have grown so much in the last month. So even though it's overcast and rainy today, the garden is still looking very lovely, and because it's nice and cool in the garden, we can actually take our time today. We're going to go ahead and start over here in the usual spot at the raised beds and just take a closer look at everything in the garden. Okay, so here we have some beefsteak tomatoes. I think there's 3 tomatoes here. Yeah, we have 3 beefsteak tomatoes, some Lunix lettuce. I need to get in the habit of succession planting this. It's doing really well here, shaded under the base of the tomatoes. And what I did was actually grow them in their transplant cups a little bit longer so that they'd be larger to withstand the heat of the summer, and that has proven to work really well, as opposed to, I used to just transplant them out after maybe 20 to 30 days. I'm giving them about 40 days now so they can get a little bit bigger, and it has helped them not become so easily scorched by the sun. We have some speckled lettuce here that's starting to bolt. That was actually a volunteer. And then we have several volunteer sweet peas from the sweet pea flowers that I grew on this trellis in the spring. What looks like grass right there is actually carnation. And then all of this glorious mint. This is peppermint, and I'm actually really looking forward to it spreading. I know a lot of times people preach on making sure to plant peppermint in a container so that it doesn't spread, and I actually really want mine to spread. People have been loving having fresh mint at the local farmers market, and it also makes a really pretty filler for flower arrangements. Okay, and then coming across these tomatoes that I have planted that are really starting to go wild, these are Berry's Crazy Cherry, and the fruit set have been really nice. pretty vigorous. I do need to come through here and prune this back a little bit, just some of the extra foliage. It has really been growing extremely vigorously, and what I'm excited about is that the tomatoes are actually starting to size up. They were about half this size the first fruit sets, much smaller, but they're really starting to get some good size to them. But you can see the ones here at the bottom are definitely smaller than the ones here. I want to come through and fertilize after the first of the month. And then here at the bottom, I have transplanted some sugar snap peas. So these are edible peas. The ones on the other side are sweet peas. They're not edible. But these are sugar snaps. And so far they're loving being in the shade of the tomatoes. So I'm going to prune them, but not so hard that it takes away all the shade from the peas. And then here next to these two very crazy cherries, I have one pickling cucumber that so far I have not gotten any cucumbers from. I think the pollinators just aren't finding it as of right now. So I have some female flowers, but have not actually harvested any fruit yet. And this has been here for a little while. You'll be able to see it in my other garden tour videos, but it's really starting to climb this trellis, and I hope that the higher that it gets, the pollinators will be able to find it more easily, so we can start to get some cucumbers. And then I transplanted two random beefsteak tomatoes that I have. I think these are Cherokee purple. They were extras that I had, so I just put them here so they wouldn't go to waste. And then I direct seeded some buckwheat as a little cover crop, and for some reason they always end up clumped together like this. They did that last year too, and I think it might actually be the birds doing it while they're still seeds. And then of course I have my sedum there, and there's a bunch of gladiolus cormlets, those things that look like large blades of grass. Those are actually from gladiolas that were trying to reproduce, and I'm just leaving them in the ground to see if in a year or two they'll come back as full-grown gladiolas. But yeah, there's the buckwheat in there, and I do plan on using some of that for flower arrangements. Then we're gonna make our way catty corner over here. Okay, so over here, these first few lettuces are Butter Crunch. That is a Gabera daisy, which had a really hard time when I first transplanted it. It turned completely brown, and it's just starting to green back up. So we'll see if once the fall hits, if it starts flowering again. And then the lettuces that I have back towards here are, I think, Paris romaine. It's some kind of romaine lettuce here. And I was doing the same technique. I actually put 2 per transplant cup so that they can kind of aid each other in keeping the soil cool, and then I grew them out to a little bit of a larger size. And these Butter Crunch are actually doing really well. I'm probably going to come through and feed them with some kelp just to help them green up a little bit more. Put some nutrients back into the soil. And then that is one of my Johnny Appleseed organic invitational contenders for largest squash. I had one planted here too, and it completely burnt up. So this one has hung on, and it's starting to bounce back from the sun damage that it received. I did have a cucumber over there, and it got completely, the roots got completely eaten up by pill bugs. So then I came through and I transplanted more sugar snap peas here at the base. And some of these ones that are looking a little bit more yellow, I'm gonna give them all a little bit of kelp. So these are more of the Berry's Crazy Cherry. You can see they have some fruit here at the bottom. I'm gonna harvest that in by the end of the week. But yeah, this is one plant, and it needs to be cut back and some of the suckers cut off because it should definitely have more fruit on it than it does, but I think because there's so much plant, that's where all of its energy is going. So let's swing around and take a look at the other side of the trellis. I have 2 Kajari Melons. These I started a lot later this year than I did last year. This time last year, I was already getting fruit. But at this point, I'm seeing my first flower over here. But it's not discouraging because these are a really quick fruiting melon actually. I want to say they're only like 70 days, so they're much quicker than your typical cantaloupe, honeydew, or watermelon. And my kids really enjoy the Kajari melon, so it's definitely one that I wanted to grow this year, even if I got it in late. And then I do plan on doing another succession of these because I know that we can blend and freeze the fruit, and my kids like to have it as like ice pops. I have 2 sedums here, actually 3, one here in the corner, and then this is a lemon balm plant here in the middle. I pulled off some of the seed heads the other day, and that helped it get some new growth. So this lighter stuff is the newest growth, and I think I'm going to harvest it for this weekend's farmer's market so that the plant can stay vigorous, because it really started to slow down once it was going to seed. It smells amazing though, so if you've never smelt lemon balm and you have the opportunity to smell it or try it, I highly encourage it. And then throughout the bed we have a bunch more volunteer sweet peas from the spring sweet peas that I had growing here. I'm just gonna let them grow. They might be difficult to manage being spaced out like this, but I'm just gonna let them and see what they do. I'll probably end up having to use some type of corralling technique and just tying the whole bunch up to this trellis, but I'm down to try. We're gonna look at this bed from afar because we just have some bolting lettuce, some snapdragons that are done, and some Roma tomatoes that probably could use some fertilizer. And then when we swing over here, this is another contender for the Johnny Appleseed Organic Gardening Invitational. This is a pink banana squash. I pruned it back this past week. There was a lot more foliage than this, but I've since cut some back to help encourage more fruit, because so far I hadn't had any fruit set. Wow, look at that flower. And there's a really big bee in there. The male flower. And then after I cut it back, we did get this fruit here, which looks like it may be pollinated because it is larger than it was the other day. So I'm still hoping that this has been pollinated. That's the pink banana squash. Oop, a bee. I'm not sure what else I want to plant in this bed. I definitely want to plant something else. I'm going back and forth about whether or not I want to plant dahlias here whenever I have some ready to plant out. But for now, I've just, my next plan for this raised bed is to dig a hole and bury more kitchen scraps to help feed the soil. And then under this tree, strawberry plants. Definitely not as many as I originally started with in this area. I've learned that strawberries do need a lot more water than I originally thought. And this area is also has a lot of weed pressure, but I'm going to keep letting them grow, and hopefully they'll send out runners before the end of the year so that we can propagate and have more strawberries next year. This area I refer to as Tomato Alley because there on the inside pathway it's lined with tomato plants. I'll show you what's going on here on the outside, and then we'll walk around and look at the inside. So we have more Kajari melons here. I do plan on, okay, wow, the pollinators are out today. Lots of bees and flies. But I do plan on putting a cattle panel trellis here between these 2 T-posts. But this sunflower was just kind of like right in the way, and I didn't want to cut it down yet. So we were going to let this flower and then cut it down and then come through with the cattle panel so that the Kajari melon can climb up the cattle panel. And then I have some dark green zucchini here. So I have dark green zucchini here, 4 plants. 3 of them are doing really well, and then this one here is being shaded out a little bit by these sunflowers. These are all volunteers, so we just let them go to see what they would do. And they all grew significantly taller than I expected them to. I do plan on saving seeds from this one. The sunflower heads are just so gorgeous. The stem length is perfect for bouquets, and it was giving multiple branches from this one plant. So here at the base, I also have a Kajari Melon down here, and another one of the contenders for largest squash for Johnny Appleseed Organic Gardening Invitational. This one I just planted, so I planted it at the same time as the other one in the raised bed, so they're still working on overcoming transplant shock. And then this bed, bolted lettuce. You'll see quite a bit of that. I'm just leaving it in the ground until I have something else to put here so that I can keep living roots in the soil and so that the pollinators will have a little extra something. And maybe even the lettuce will reseed itself. Over there, I have one zinnia from a few that I transplanted here among the daffodils, and that's the only one that survived. And then this is where I have some spent chamomile that's all done. I need to cut it down and weed this bed, but I'm just gonna kind of leave it as well as the weeds until I have something else to plant here, because right now I don't have anything ready. We're gonna go ahead and take a stroll through Tomato Alley. A sunflower volunteered in the middle of the path. But on this right hand side is where I have some of my Johnny Appleseed Organic contenders that consist of True Beefsteak, which I think is also called Fiji Improved, Cherokee Purple, and Brandywine. And these are just starting to flower. Okay, so coming out of Tomato Alley, we have my Spanish lavender that's all done for the season. I did not keep up with removing the buds, so I'm just leaving them, seeing what that does for them for next year. Had to prune back this pomegranate tree just about a week and a half ago. It had a stalk that was significantly taller, but it completely died back, and I'm not sure the reason why, but I cut it down, and since then these offshoots have grown a lot. So this is the second year that the pomegranate is in the ground, and I'm holding out for fruit for next year. And then of course we have another pomegranate tree right back there. This is my golden currant bush. I only recently realized this was a golden currant and not red or white, but most of the currants, I'm not quite sure what happened to them. They were either stolen or just fell off the plant. And I think because it's so hot by this wall, but there are a few fruit left. And I guess that's what they're gonna look like when they're fully ripe. I'm excited to at least try one. I'm not sure if this is what they're supposed to look like when they're ripe. I'll have to Google them. It tastes really sour and almost astringent. It's not bad. It just doesn't taste like sweet at all. So I'll have to Google to see if that's what they're supposed to look like when they're ripe. There is a fly that has befriended me and won't leave me alone. I wanted to show off this. My little fly friend is still over here. Leave me alone. Okay, it's not actually raining anymore. This. I call it the Ruby Passion Sunflower, but I think I'm going to rename it Alamogordo Sunset. It's gorgeous. It looks like a sunset, reminds me of a sunset. The red on the center, and then it has the yellow petals. I think these are super pretty. This one's actually a volunteer. And it is taller than me. Oh, there's a spider in there. And I think I'm going to rename them, and then I'll have the seeds for these for sale soon because I still have a ton of seeds from last year. But you can see how big they get. This one is smaller. But you grow them until they have 5 leaf sets, and then you pinch out the top until you have 2 or 3 leaf sets at the bottom, 2 or 3 true leaf sets, and it could potentially get this tall. And they absolutely love heat. We have this retaining wall, which you guys have seen a lot, and it radiates a lot of heat, and the more heat, the bigger that they get. So it absolutely loves heat. This one actually self-seeded in rocks, so it's right at the edge of the bed. It's more in the rocks. It's definitely in the rocks as opposed to in the proper garden bed, but it has thrived. So look for those seeds soon. I'm probably going to end up making maybe a local line website to make those available for purchase, along with some Kajari Melon seeds. So, but I'll let you guys know whenever those seeds are available. So there's that, and then in this bed is also some poppies that are done, another volunteer sunflower, some lettuce that's done, and a plane passing by overhead. This is the second one since I've been out here. And with the monsoon season, the weeds have started to get out of control. So you guys can see all the weeds back here actually have a pathway of rocks all along this back wall, but you can only tell down there where my husband recently weeded. This all needs to get weeded. And I don't want to do it in case there's any creepy crawlies back there. So I let him do that. So there's the lettuce that's gone to seed, and then some calendula that's about to be done. I'm going to let it all go to seed and then save the seed. Then over here I have another calendula. I'm letting this go to seed as well because these have so many layers of petals. I definitely want seeds from this. Some zinnias that I transplanted out this past week, comfrey, and a bunch of Shasta daisies that need to be cut soon because they're on the verge of blooming. I pulled out some onions from here this past week and transplanted some of my hottest pepper contenders. These are Carolina Reapers for the Johnny Appleseed Organic Gardening Invitation, and that is the buckwheat. And then some romaine lettuce that's going to seed. Around here I have another zinnia, zucchini, some lettuce that's going to seed. I'm letting all the lettuce in my garden, when it goes to seed, I'm just gonna let it do its thing to attract extra pollinators and potentially reseed. And then I have some straw flower. I'm not sure why it's yellowing. If you have any idea, let me know. The ants absolutely love these, so a part of me thinks it could be aphids that's creating this yellowing, but I haven't seen any aphids on the actual plants. Just ants on the flower buds. So I haven't really been able to cut these because of the amount of ants. This one just started flowering and doesn't really have ants on it. And I have some more straw flower here, along with some radish that's going to seed. I transplanted some golden beets here this past week, and then we have some determinate Roma tomatoes. I tried to grow about 10 of these this year, but only have about 4 left from ones that were somehow damaged when I transplanted them out. But I definitely want to try again for the fall to have a significant amount of these Roma tomatoes. They grow so well once they get going. And then I have a couple carrots down here that I'm leaving so that they can go to seed and I can have carrot flowers because I think they're super pretty. And around here I have some okra that I transplanted out about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago. This is okra that I transplanted out a while ago. It might be in my May video. This is self-seeded zinnia seed. Self-seeded zinnia plant. And then some zucchini. More okra. And I only recently discovered that you can actually plant okra very close. And it does just fine. I think it actually kind of supports each other. And then I have some pro-cut sunflowers here at the edge. And then some more of the determinate Roma tomatoes here. Let's take a look at these beds over here. After many attempts, I finally have some significant growth on some Market More cucumbers here at the edge of this bed. The roly-polies had just been feasting on every single transplant I have tried to plant up until this time. So I've been using diatomaceous earth as of recently to try to keep them off. But because it's been raining, as soon as it gets rinsed off of the plants, they're back. So, but as long as they stay away from the main stalk of the plant, we can get along, get along. I'm still going to continue to put the diatomaceous earth around the base of these because I'm just really desiring cucumbers this year. Along here is also some sweet peas that self-seeded. And then I also tried sowing some carrots, and some of the seedlings have popped up here and there. You can see that there's carrot seedlings down there as well, along with the sweet peas. On the other side is a succession of carrots that I did several weeks ago. These are beefsteak tomato plants, and then some self-sown sweet peas. I have a very narrow path in between these two beds. And these are all contenders for the Johnny Appleseed Organic Invitational. And in between these, I have some lemon basil. Between these first two is lemon basil. And then I may come through once I have more basil ready and put it in between these. This, I only recently seen all these flowers. Let's see if we can get some pollination happening. Then we have some rudbeckia that's ready to cut. Some Shasta daisies that have really taken off over the past couple weeks with all this rain. There's carrots and a volunteer beet. I really need to clean up this bed, but I just haven't yet because I don't feel like dealing with it. The lilies that kind of popped up here, they're all done. And then I have some cherry tomatoes along the edge that need to start being trellised up their strings. I need to come through and pull out all these sweet peas, as well as the bolted lettuce. I'll probably save that for next week though. But this bed needs to be cleaned up very badly. You can see the sweet peas on the other side, some snapdragons, and then some dead daffodil foliage, along with all of this sweet pea seed pods. I originally wanted to save seeds, but I've waited for so long that a lot of these have bust open and already dropped a majority of their seeds. So they're going to be self-sown, and some of them have, oh, my sprinkler just came on. Okay, it was raining, so definitely don't need that. Yeah, so that area just needs to get cleaned up, as does this. These tomatoes back here are Barry's Crazy Cherry, and they need some love. They need to be fertilized and pruned, and these chamomile need to be cut back because they've really taken over, but they're done now. And the Barry's Crazy Cherry is just trying to find its way. In this bed behind me, everything here is done except for these volunteer sunflowers. So I'm trying to figure out what I want to put here once my next round of seedlings is ready to go out. And last but not least, let's take a look at the flower path. I have some pro-cut sunflowers here on this edge, as well as some cosmos. There's some Shasta daisies here that, although have been taken over by weeds, are still performing nicely. We have a volunteer ruby passion, or Alamogordo sunset. Then I also direct seeded a bunch of buckwheat. I just kind of tossed it, raked up the soil, tossed it down, and then raked the soil back over it. And as you can see, it's also come up in clumps here as well. I have a few pro-cut sunflowers and some marigolds I tried to transplant out here, and it was a little bit too hot. A lot of them died off because I had them all the way down. But these are the only ones that are left, which are ones that have gotten some shade from these sunflowers. So I have another succession of marigolds that I just potted up. So I'm going to give them about a month in their pots and then try again with putting marigolds along here. And then I'm also going to put marigolds along here. You can see. So I'm definitely going to try to put marigolds along here again. You can see the zinnias. I think I might actually be able to fit a few more plants in here so that they're planted like super tight so they can support themselves, because I have no desire to use support netting over here. So I might try to do that within the next month or two. The snapdragons are still blooming, although every plant has gone to seed. It still has sent out more flowers. I'll probably cut these back towards the end of summer, just like all the way to the ground. And then this is one of the things I'm most excited about. My eucalyptus plant came out of dormancy. I wasn't sure if it had survived the winter or not, but here we are, and it has a lot of new growth. So I'm super excited about this because I thought it was a goner, but I'm so glad it survived the winter. My eucalyptus plant that was on the other side did not survive, unfortunately. So that's it. That's how things are looking here at the end of June. Yeah, and there's been a lot of changes in the garden since the end of May. So I still really enjoy doing these once a month garden tours to be able to share my garden with you, but then also have some record for myself to be able to see how quickly the garden changes, especially during the summer. And I like to look over the videos from month to month, and I look forward to the day when I can compare them from year to year. So yeah, thank you for sticking around to see the entire tour. And if you are wanting more gardening content, I do also post on TikTok, and I do weekly tours over there, as well as daily content throughout the week with different gardening tips, or just showing you some of the things that are happening in my garden for the week. So yeah, that's everything that I have to show you guys, and I appreciate you for watching. And until next time, keep learning and keep growing.